What's going on, guys? Wei Ko from Revolution here with one of my best friends in the watch industry, Mr. Davide Cerrato. How are you, sir?
Good.
Yeah.
Ciao, Wei.
So good to see you. So good to see you also in your, I can still say, new capacity as the CEO of Bremont. But you have to understand that Davide's story is one of the most interesting and the most accomplished in the watch industry. He started off working at Panerai, where he was in charge simultaneously of both marketing and also product development. Then he went to a little-known obscure brand named Tudor, and was instrumental part of creating the Black Bay. And then after that, he went to Montblanc, where he was the boss of watches there. He had a brief dalliance with a brand called HYT, and now he's at Bremont. So Davide, tell me, what is the mission at Bremont for you, sir?
The mission of Bremont is inspire people around the world to believe in themselves and land their dreams, basically. We just launched a very powerful new campaign that is called Take It Further. And it's really about, how and linked about adventure and exploration and outdoor and nature, and looking at the mindset of these incredible people, how they realize a crazy thing is that they never give up, they face their fears, they cope with risk, they believe in themselves, and that's exactly the mindset that allows them to do this thing. So I want the brand to make a strong call to everyone, to all the young people in the world, to take it further.
I love that also. I think the whole idea of like having no limitations in your life and having the courage to be different, to be courageous, to be forward-thinking is an incredibly universal message.
And it's also the story of the company, is how Bremont is a tiny British challenger, started from nothing and became what it is today. And it's also my story. Now I'm taking over to take it further, the company. So it's very, sound with everything around what we do.
Let's talk a little bit about the roots of the company as well. The English brothers, Giles and Nick, were two really interesting individuals, both, steeped in aviation, kind of explorers in their own way as well, but with this kind of impossible dream they had to set up a British watchmaking company. Tell me how that story resonated with you, and how also that represents one chapter, but now you're bringing the new chapter of the brand forward.
Absolutely. What they achieved is mind-blowing, coming with this utopic dream and, fighting against everything and everyone. And, 20 years later, 180 people, 20 million turnover, incredible premises in Hanley-on-Thames, and, very strong in UK, a little bit present in US, and the company is out there. And now, clever enough to, understand where they needed to bring someone from outside with a strong watchmaking knowledge, product knowledge, to help them to shift to the next phase. And, New York investor, incredible, really committed, really passionate about watches, really focused on the long term. And, for me, a perfect match and a one-of-a-kind opportunity to now, simplify to amplify and, refocus all the communication on adventure and exploration, cleaning the product range and focusing on 3 lines: adventure in the sea, in the land, and in the sky. Sea is a supermarine, the diving line that we already had that we are transforming, and with the first step of transformation with the just new diving GMT that we presented. Land will be the big take of Watches and Wonders, because we will be back at Watches and Wonders. Very happy to be again part of this fantastic environment that is watchmaking. And then everything that is aviation inspired will be the big take of next year.
I think one of the things that we are impressed most by British culture is the whole idea of exploration and being pioneers, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that occupation, sort of the gentleman explorer, is one of which, is one of the greatest cultural treasures that we have, which includes obviously the ascent of Everest and so many wonderful things like that as well. But I like the idea that you're taking that and putting it into watches that are into 3 different families as well. You mentioned sea, so let's start with talking about the Supermarine, and tell us a little bit about how, by creating the Supermarine GMT, it's an evolution in terms of your vision.
Absolutely. To be very transparent with you, when I joined, these watches were already in the pipeline, but I could twist the design and could add a number of key elements. The 24-hour indication on the bezel, two-tone as we did on the blue and green, the font that we use to go much more technical and readable. All our watches now are signed with London in bright orange, as much as the Supermarine brand name. New strap, I'm very keen and I'm very focused on comfort and wearability of the watches. So new vintage leather strap, new rubber strap, tapered and thinner. A limited edition, this one developed with Ocean Ramsey, a fantastic couple living in Hawaii and engaged in wildlife preservation in the ocean. I really want to, push the company to engage and commit really with a very strong environmental commitment. This is just our first step. We just launched also the two 500 meter. One of the two developed with Laird Hamilton, incredible.
I was going to ask you about that because he's probably one of the most famous names in ocean culture. He's the father of big wave surfing.
Big wave surfing
right.
And foiling now.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And he's also, and what I like very much about him, committed in healthy living and sport and healthy food, and which represents very well the kind of commitment that you need to have with yourself if you want to take it further.
It's funny because you and I grew up in the end of the 20th century, but the evolution in terms of mentality towards the new millennium has been extraordinary. And then one of the things that you mentioned is like the underlying ethics, how things are produced and how you treat yourself as well. How important is that to you, and how are the ethics of your company important to you?
It is very important to me, and it's very important for the company. So, and the company is in a way already framed to be agile and to be capable of making such a commitment. So it's just a first step, but we really want to, take it further seriously in terms of, further and further commitments.
So I don't want you to reveal too much because I know it's your big launch for Watches and Wonders, but you did mention land, right?
Yes.
And I think there's so many ways in which you can interpret that. I find that to be fascinating. Can you give us a little bit of a hint of the type of watch that we can expect that will represent the land explorer's timepiece?
With pleasure. As you know, I want to bring Bremont to be the king of tool watches, and watches that you can wear every day, and watches that are fitted with purpose, and watches that deliver technical characteristic and performances as such that you can use them everywhere. And field watches are a fantastic kind of subgroup of this environment, and our ties with the military and our ties with our British heritage made me go through a lot of historical military timepieces. It was a fascinating trip, and cool. I found hence into this journey to create a very, very powerful field watch product line with a transversal design code and completely new look, in a way really embodying the new skin of Bremont. So I'm really looking forward to present it in Watches and Wonders.
Davide, when I think of you as being one of the fathers of the kind of retro modern move that we has actually been one of the most influential periods in watch design over the last 10, 15 years, right?
Definitely.
When we talk about the Black Bay, for example, which I know you were part of the team that really created this iconic watch now. It was really the first diving watch that was looking at its past from the 50s, from its military heritage, and incorporating so many of these cool codes, like the snowflake hands, for example, into that watch. For a brand like Bremont, which doesn't necessarily have a huge history, right, but is inspired by history, where do you find like the right details? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
I'm very curious. I'm like a sponge, so I get inspiration from everything, and it's very nice because over time I develop my own way of doing design, and it's really an organic process, which in a way, is very similar to learning a new language. At the beginning you get some words, so you get some design hints, not many, few that can be around there. Then you can make phrases, and you can express simple concept, and then you can make a paragraph. And right. At a certain moment, you can write poems. And design, finding your own grammar, design language is exactly like this. At the beginning, you have few elements that you see immediately that you can grab and start to, coagulate around, and then slightly, step by step, it grows and grows, and you take element and you create your own language, and then in a way everything becomes very natural. So we are looking at our branding, our font, our logo is really a kind of 360 degree assessment. And I think that for us, Watches and Wonders will be really the turning point. It will be the moment in which everyone will discover the new skin of Bremont. It's like a snake that changes the skin, and
Yes. Yeah, I think your new watch has got to be one of the most hotly anticipated ones also, because there's so much potential there. I mean, you are clearly one of the strongest designers in this industry. No, it's true. And then but from British heritage, especially military heritage, you've got the Dirty Dozen from World War II. You've got watches created for the RAF. You've got watches created for the SAS. There's so much that you can draw from. And then there's watches that are used by the whole history of British exploration as well. I mean, it's exciting, dude.
It will be very rich and very wide. It will be the first application of bringing new complication into our offer,
right.
And it will be the first application of something that is very dear to me, which is value for money. So,
okay,
the all entry part of this new line, as much as these new executions, it's all below £3,000. 2,500 to 3,000, which to me is where. In what I call the premium segment, the soft belly of the market is. That's where consumers are. That's why I really love this segment. It's so competitive, so difficult. For such a low money, you need to be capable of expressing everything that brand that costs much more do, with the same sophistication, with the same sexiness, with the same precision, but at a very, delivering this affordability and allowing getting new customer into the mechanical passion and obsession. So
I love this for two reasons. First, as with any, I would say relatively new watch brand, right? Like a brand starts, usually it tries to offer some value proposition, but sometimes it starts to scale the heights in terms of price. And I think for you to reconnect in such a strong way, Bremont, with this idea of a value proposition is incredibly important, right? And I think that that's also the foundation of its success as well is related to this. The second thing is I totally agree with you that this price category around £3,000, as you call it, the soft belly of the luxury sector, is probably the most exciting segment that I can think of right now, because there's so much creativity there. And there's a kind of fearlessness that people are trying different things, and when it works super well, right? Is there a specific period, like 1950s, 1970s, 1990s, or that you're really inspired by, or are you drawing like design codes from different time periods as well? Yeah.
I have a particular path that really allow me to spend quite a long time into the premium segment, Tudor, Mont Blanc, but also to make exploration into super high-end, complicated watches, and which really gives me a very wide spectrum, and which allows me to combine very different elements. And for sure, there's no secret. The 50s are the most inspiring decade by far. But then I'm a son of the 70s, as you are. And
very much so.
During the 70s, there were incredibly interesting exploration and very unique way of expressing. And then I developed this very particular way of integrating the zeitgeist and elements of modernity, hints of modernity, when you make quotes, design quotes from the past. And the secret is really being able of, referring to someone, but updating it. If you just refer, I saw some of that was, just the exact copy of the past thing. To me, doesn't make absolutely any sense.
And there's no excitement there,
Exactly. Yeah. But I agree very much with you about this degree of freedom that there is in the premium segment, and you see it very much from the colors, for example, If you have if you have a number of brands, of the very serious, very high-end brands, you have all the serious stuff, the black dials, but when you go into exciting brands at the entry of the market, then what you're expecting is not serious black dials. You're expecting colors. You're expecting shades of color. You're expecting new material. You're expecting fun.
Yes.
That's why you buy those watches, and that's what I like of the segment is if you play it well. both you take the newcomers into the market, the first purchase, but you also can connect with the, you know, very high end of the market, with the collectors that get inspired because of this eccentricity, because of the colors, because of the sexiness that you can express with the design.
Davide, the last question I would have for you is you've actually pioneered a lot of stuff, right? And it's funny now, like when we think about like vintage colored luminova, right? Like,
yes.
I'm pretty sure you're the first guy to ever use it, right? And then like when I think about like the hemispherical display of the world, right? Like I think you were the guy who popularized this as well. How does it make you feel like when you look at watches today and you're like, oh, actually I see a kind of influence of the stuff I've created over the last couple of decades? Does it give you a sense of happiness, a sense of contentment, or does it just give you more excitement to do more for the future?
In a way, both. In a way, it's like, you know, we are of the same decade, so it's a little bit like Back to the Future. It looks like I'm competing against my younger self, and in another way, it's very exciting. And you know, speaking about, I'm intrigued by superluminova and luminous signature since
yes,
ever.
Me too. Yeah.
In car,
yeah.
The luminous signature has become, the light signature has
yes.
become a key element of the design. And since a long time, I'm trying to express the same thing on watches. And now with superluminova, you can have superluminova of any color. You can have a new superluminova that has a brightness that lasts for hours.
Wow.
And this opens again and you know, big roads to creativity. But then how can you use that, which is in a way an expensive take, and transform into something affordable? That's exactly the kind of challenge that I take and that I like.
And I know you'll do very well with. Davide, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you,
sir.
Wei. As always, a super pleasure.
Hey, pleasure's mine. Thank you, brother.